As the Civil War drew to a close, thus legitimately free individuals and escapees alike were captured and held in contraband camps, so named because as commodities they were considered contraband by Union troops who had no qualms about perpetrating slavery for their own benefit. 3 such camps existed in the Devil's Punch Bowl area of Natchez. A massive exodus of former slaves from southern plantations trekked northward in hopes of reaching a location of true freedom, but embittered soldiers, resentful that the people considered property were now free, had other plans. Researcher Paula Westbrook, who has extensively studied Devil's Punch Bowl, noted, when the slaves were released from the plantations during the occupation, they overran Natchez, and the population went from about 10,000 to 120,000 overnight. Unable to grapple with an instant population swell, the city turned to Union troops still lingering after the war to devise a merciless, impenitent solution. So they decided to build an encampment for them at Devil's Punch Bowl, which they walled off and wouldn't let them out. Former director of Natchez City Cemetery, Don Estes, explained. Devil's Punch Bowl is so named for a cavernous bowl-shaped gulch walled off by treetop cliffs. It was the perfect place in the heart of nature for the army to enslave people and carry out their regime of torture. The men were forced to undergo heavy labor throughout the day while the women and children were simply locked up behind the walls. Every slave, man, woman, and child was starved and kept in the worst of hygiene conditions. The slaves died of torture by starvation and exhaustion. After the slaves were dead, the soldiers kept their bodies to rot inside the camps. They never cleared or buried the bodies. Instead, they provided inmates with shovels to bury their slave brothers and sisters inside the camp. They were told to bury them where they dropped. Such conditions, along with the camp's location and climate of the region, contributed to the outbreak of several diseases that infected and killed the slaves. One of the major diseases contributing to the fatality was smallpox. Estes said of the concentration camp prisoners, they were begging to get out. Turn me loose and I'll go home back to the plantation, anywhere but there. Locals say human skeletons occasionally wash free from the location in times of heavy rains and flooding. Wild peach trees now dot the basin where human beings who believed they finally won freedom from slavery were tortured and died, and these peach trees are believed to be fertilized by their bodies. Like so much about the history of the United States, sadistic acts perpetrated by officials acting on behalf of the government have been deceitfully downplayed to lessen shame and facilitate collective memory loss. Whatever the full truth about Devil's Punch Bowl, it's a veritable guarantee no history book will be honest or thorough enough to shed light on the excruciating conditions similar to Nazi concentration camps. This is the Devil's Punch Bowl.
Black problems, black issues, past, present, and future. This is Black Authentic Truth.